Hi, I'm Tim.
And I'm Josh from Forma Cars.
Today we're going to show you how to install a third brake light and trunk lighting on a Factory 5 coupe.
Step one, and most important step, test the center brake light, make sure all the functionality is working properly. We provide a magnet for the switch. With it powered on, your interior lights will be on. With the magnet, hold it up against the back and your interior lights will dim down. Confirm the brake light works. If everything works properly, you're ready to install the kit.
Once you have the rear hatch fit and functioning properly, we need to mark the glass to install the third brake light. There's two ways to go about it. If you have a stripe, then we reference off the stripe so that the light is centered to the stripe. If you don't have a stripe, then we can reference the center of the glass, and how we do that is in between the two hinge brackets. How we come up with these marks are, this is the center of the stripe and the center of the glass. This is the edge of the first stripe, so I marked that out to find center. And 3.5 inches either side of the center, which I've transferred to the glass. These marks are going to be for later use when we drill a hole, a pass-through hole for the wiring and the grommet. All right, the next step is, once you've had marked and measured and laid out all the dimensions that you need, it's time to remove the glass. How we would remove it is remove the shoulder bolts at the pivot point. That way, when you set it back in place, everything should line up properly. And we place it face up on the table because we need to add a couple strips of tape on the outside marks. And what this tape is going to reference is the center point for our applique that's going to go above the third brake light. And how I do this is, this is approximately 1.5 inch wide tape. We can't be any further up the glass than 1.5 inches. So using the inside of the tape to the edge of the left mark, I put a piece of tape, tear a flag off, run it under, take this back up and leave it there. Then on the other mark, do the same thing inside of the tape to the mark, leave a flag, push it under, bring the tape back out. This is 2 reference points for the center left to right of, now we can remove this, we don't need this anymore, of the applique. So then once that's done, we can just roll these back up. And now we're ready for the install of the applique. We really need to thoroughly clean the window. We don't want any dust particles. Recommend you using a microfiber towel. There's 2 processes that you can install the applique. One process is that you can thoroughly saturate the glass with Windex, remove the backing off the applique, locate it, or put it on the glass, and the Windex will allow you to freely move it around to get it located in position. How I do it is I get it in location, I'll tape it in 3 spots, trying not to move it. Now at this point, it'll allow me to peel this up, remove part of the backing, cut it away. Then I'll use a 90% alcohol, rubbing alcohol. It needs a little lubricant so I can remove the bubbles. It's time to start sticking the applique to the glass. As I explained earlier, there's 2 processes, but my process is, my preferred process is this way. Peeling it off the backing. to my edge of my tape. Then I just take standard scissors, cut that section away, and rubbing alcohol. Doesn't take a whole lot, but a little bit helps just to get the air bubbles out. And once I bring it down, slowly rub it back towards you. Try and help get the air bubbles out. Then take a squeegee. Work everything out from the center out. I prefer the rubbing alcohol because it evaporates much faster than the Windex. However, if you're not experienced, the Windex is probably the way to go. You just peel back the remaining piece. Rubbing out on it isn't quite evaporated yet, so you can use your hand to help maintain the position. And the same thing, just reverse. Just from the inside out, slowly applying it, and with the squeegee, from the center out to the edges. And you can run your hands around it to feel for air bubbles. Generally, you can feel them pretty easily. Now at this point, if you're using rubbing alcohol, I would wait approximately 30 minutes before you try to remove the top film. If you're using Windex, I would suggest at least an hour, then start checking it and start with a corner. Enough time's expired, we've allowed this to dry out. We can pull the backing off of it. Always try to start with one of the corners and slowly, because sometimes you might get a little bit of pull with it, especially on the edges. Maybe we didn't wait long enough. There we go. Always get all the bubbles back out with the squeegee.
After the applique is installed, go ahead and turn your glass over, and you're going to mark the edge of the glass using a piece of tape 7/8 of an inch from the end. Once you've got that marked, you're going to go ahead and clean the underside. Once you've got the glass clean, you're going to go ahead and set your center brake light housing over the applique just for reference to get an idea of where it needs to sit. Line the back edge of the housing with the edge of your piece of tape that you marked 7/8 off the top of the glass. Once your glass is cleaned, you're going to go ahead and take the housing and peel up 1 inch of every corner of the backing. Sometimes it's a little tricky to peel up, but once you get it, it'll allow placing the housing on the glass much easier. With the 4 flags peeled up, flip the housing over, line the back up with your tape line, and evenly place the center brake light over the contour of the applique. Once you're happy with the position, you can start peeling up your flags. Once you've got all 4 of your flags peeled off, Go ahead and press the brake light housing down to the glass firmly to make sure that it's completely stuck to the glass. Once you've done that, you've successfully mounted the housing to the glass. The next steps would be putting the glass back on the car and attaching the bolts at the hinge points. From inside the car, once your glass is installed, make sure you have the brake light temporarily powered up. You should see the interior lights turned on. Go ahead and take your magnet and locate it centered on the brake light until your lights turn off. You should be able to see the light on the side of the housing go from red to green. Green tells you that the magnet is lined up and in the proper location. If you have a headliner installed, you'll have to cut out a section for the magnet to mount to. If not, go ahead and stick the magnet straight to the fiberglass.
We can go ahead and mark and drill a hole for our wire pass through. Where we've marked it previously on top of the car, we've got center, and I'm sure everybody's noticed this extra mark here. What that's for, that's 2 3/8 off center. And you can put it on either side, whichever is more convenient for your particular car. And I've also added a piece of tape inside to where I've marked center, and I was able to mark 2 3/8 off each side of that. And center of the fiberglass lip is more than sufficient for a hole. Now we use it takes a 3/4 inch hole. We use a step drill. Now that we got the hole drilled in the location that we want it to be in, we can go ahead and pass through our wires. We give you plenty of wire to get anywhere you need to go. Once they're through, go ahead and pop the grommet in place.
After you have your grommet pushed in place, you're ready to wire everything up. So go ahead and hook up your red wire, which is labeled 12 volts, to a battery source. Hook up your ground to a ground, and the green wire labeled brake will go to your brake signal. If you're running LED taillights, this will need to tie in before the taillight converter. If you're running the regular tails, then you don't have a converter, and you can choose either your left or right brake signal. So that wraps up the brake light install. Thanks for watching.